Energy and Ascension forecast for Sunday, August 27th to Saturday, September 2nd. Okay, let's talk about last week. Of course, we entered into last week knowing that we were in the final days of Leo season. Of course, we transitioned into Virgo season on the 23rd. That was a major shift in energies, definitely grounding us out, definitely making us more present, definitely putting us in a more logical, practical approach to some of our issues, to some of our problems. Of course, only hours after the sun moved into Virgo, giving up his rulership in that Leo energy, we had Mercury, the ruler of Virgo season, already in Virgo energy, go retrograde, joining this very big retrograde crew. Let's review. Now we have Mercury, Venus. Now granted, Mercury and Venus going to work very close together here this week in order to have some heartfelt logical revelations on some paths, some directions, some plans that we plan on taking when Venus goes direct. We have Neptune in a retrograde, Saturn in a retrograde, Pluto in a retrograde. We will be having Uranus join that retrograde crew here this week, and we are definitely sitting all up in it. Now, not that I want to get ahead of myself here too much, but Mercury's retrograde is what is creating this irritation. It's what's creating the frustration. We'll talk about that in just a second. But I think it's very interesting that we are going to spend the entirety of Virgo season under Mercury's retrograde. Yes, I know there's other planets, but having the ruler of the energy that we're in be retrograde is going to bring a totally different jam, a totally different vibe. If you haven't listened to the Virgo season astro forecast that I put out or the Mercury retrograde forecast that I put out, you should definitely take a listen. If you haven't downloaded your Virgo season e-guide, I would definitely recommend that as well. We have this major shift, this grounding energy moving into this earthy Virgo energy there on the 23rd. The 24th, we had the first quarter moon taking place in Sagittarius energy. Of course, that put some pep back in our step. It revealed a greater, grander projection of a direction, a path, a choice, a decision that we were looking at making. And it really kind of put us in a state to use the confusion, the frustration, the anger as the fuel to motivate us to make a change, to push us into a different direction, to pluck out the silver linings, to really act as the observer and see what is possible for us now that we've had this pivot point, we've had this emergence of the newest version of self, we've had some new revelations, both in our head space and our heart space. That was the opportunity to see what was possible for us now moving forward. But of course, we're not moving forward in any kind of direction. With all of these retrograde planets, again, this is the whole back to the future vibe. In order for us to move forward, we have to resolve the past. So this is the final week that we had with Mars in Virgo energy. We will see Mars shift up signs here in just a minute. And of course, Uranus being direct. Now, Uranus is a outer planet, so his shift, his retrograde, isn't as dramatic or I'm going to say noticeable as, the inner planets would be when they go retrograde. However, we're about to have a very interesting realization over the next 4.5 months, really taking a good look at our physical realms, what it is that we've built, what it is that we're aligned with, what it is that we're no longer aligned with, where it is that we're overly attached to our physical realm, maybe to the version of ourselves that we had to be, or the people that we attracted at that version of self, routine, money matters. Basically, our physical realm is going to be illuminating where it is that we're overly attached and where there's a lot of fear when it comes to thinking about losing those particular materialistic connections or items. And all of this is just trying to lighten the load, really simplify our lives so that we can make a spontaneous pivot point at any time without the burden, if you will, of the weight of the worlds in which we've already created, blocking us from actually making those changes. So what do we got going on this week, you may ask? Well, it's another jam-packed, filled week filled with energy shifts. Starting with Mars. Mars is the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires. He will be shifting into Libran energy here on the 27th. Mars doesn't enjoy being in Libran energy. He's technically in his fall, seeing as he rules over the Aries energy that sits across from the Libran energy in the zodiac wheel. take it one extra layer. Mars is the masculine energy. Venus rules over Libran energy. She is the feminine energy. Having Mars be in the Venus rulership of Libran energy, this is again another reason why Mars is not happy here. Mars would prefer to take action, to make moves, to actually aggress and assert himself here in this physical realm, to go after new passions, new ideas, new desires. The Libran energy takes us up into the mental plane. We want to talk about it. We want to negotiate. We want to compromise. We want to really kind of intellectually navigate our way through this particular point and path. And Mars would just prefer to kind of put that conversation aside, take action, and deal with the consequences later. So, of course, having Mars lead us over the next 18 months into this new path where the North Node in Aries is trying to lead us to be more independent, to create more freedom, to really get to know thyself, to anchor in and be self-centered, if you will, putting our own wants, needs, and desires before everyone else's. Of course, that South Node in the Libran energy showing us where it is that we have to disconnect and detach from the group, from the team, from the partnership, energetically, or in some cases physically, in order for us to push our own type of narrative, our own agenda, our own wants, needs, and desires without allowing other people's thoughts and opinions and 2 cents to really put us in a situation where we have been in people pleasing, dimming our light in order to make other people happy, putting our own wants, needs, and desires on the back burner in order to push the goal of the group, of the team, of the partnership. So having Mars move through this Libran energy is going to be a very interesting dynamic. We are going to see a lot of extremes, not only on the collective stage, where social justice is a thing, but also in our own lives where we're fighting for fairness. We're fighting for balance. We're fighting to really accept this new version of self. We're fighting for this new relationship with thyself, which of course is going to alter all of the relationship dynamics that we're choosing to have with other people. So Mars moving into Libran energy, it likely not going to feel so hot, but just keep in the back of your mind that when Mars moves into Scorpio energy, its rulership, that is where we start to feel powerful again. That's where we start to see action again. That's where the major change and transformation takes place. But of course, we have to attempt to negotiate. We have to attempt to compromise. We have to attempt to intellectualize the path, the plan in moving forward. And we're not going to see the true intensity of some of the thoughts that we're going to be having, some of the ideas that we're going to be contemplating actually come to life and come to form until Mars actually enters into his rulership in that Scorpio energy. So we're all in for a very interesting ride on how it is that we plan to kind of rebalance the scales in our inner realm, in our outer realm, within ourselves, with our relationship dynamics outside of us as well. And of course, the Libran energy wants to find balance, but normally speaking, we find that balance through experiencing the extremes. So we're definitely in for a little bit of a bumpy ride with that particular transit. Of course, Uranus, like I mentioned, going retrograde on the 28th. This is not his first time retrograding in Taurus energy. He's not in his most favorite place in Taurus energy because, of course, Uranus is about awakening us to where change is needed. Well, the fixed earth sign of Taurus doesn't want to change at all, very resistant to change. So the whole retrograde, first of all, we're going to be really sitting within ourselves. The activations, the levels up of awareness, of enlightenment, of awakening will happen due to activation, a trigger of the downloads that we've already received. This is going to be an inner realm awakening. This is like getting to know ourselves again, because of course, new parts of self have emerged since Venus and the Sun kind of popped off. They had their rebirthing session there on the 13th. That new form that we are bringing to life isn't anchored in as of yet because there are some things in our physical realm that are preventing us from anchoring in this new version of self because, of course, the old world that our old self has created wants to continue to keep us in that old vibration, that old pattern, that old behavior. So Uranus over the next couple of months is going to illuminate, probably in a very harsh light, where it is that we have to get rid of some things, where it is that we have to downsize, where it is that we have to clean out the closet, where it is that we have to disconnect and detach to some of the materialistic realm connections and attachments that we have created that we're no longer in alignment with. Definitely going to illuminate if you're in a fear-based narrative of thinking like what you would do if you lost your job or you lost your partner or you lost your possessions of some sort. If you're in a fear-based narrative, I would highly recommend that you start doing the shadow work now to kind of get into a place where you're able to observe without activating that kind of fear narrative and contemplating what it is that you quote unquote have a fear of losing, what you're so overly attached to here in this physical realm that you don't know what you would do if those particular situations, circumstances, or items got removed from your physical realm. So it is going to be a very interesting dynamic over the next 4.5 months to see what Uranus is going to illuminate to us, needs to change, needs to be let go of, needs to be released here in our physical realm. Of course, now we are building towards the full moon in Pisces taking place on the 30th. Let me just tell you, this is not going to be a mystical, magical, fantasy-like Pisces full moon event like we've experienced in the past. And a lot of that is because Saturn, the Lord of Karma, is working very closely with this new moon. They're pretty much on top of each other as we reach the peak full moon energy. Of course, the full moon is going to illuminate for us where it is that we have some emotional, spiritual, karmic baggage that we need to let go of. Does it feel good to be aware of the weight in which you've been carrying? No, absolutely not. Does it feel good when you actually put that luggage down and you can free yourself up to feel the lighter version of self? Absolutely it does. So what we're going to get here, first of all, is a very harsh reality check. We might get bitch slapped by the universe, if you will, in order for us to realize where it is that there are fragments of karma still kind of holding on due to us not confronting the issues that need to be confronted in order to bring topics and themes to a full closure point. Now, granted, this Pisces moon is at 7 degrees fairly early, which is indicative that we are entering into a new Pisces energy cycle as far as these lunar points go, which means that this is a time to really get cleansed. And of course, that water energy is great for cleansing. It just washes over us. It percolates all of our inner emotions, all of our pain, all of our trauma, all of our fears, just as much as it does all of our dreams, all of the, I'm going to say, visions and insights that we are trying to piece together to see where it is that we're going to move forward to actually manifest the next chapter of creation. But this full moon, because it's heavy, because it's weighted, it's almost like we're getting cleansed of the fragmented karma from our aura, from our spiritual field, which, we've been in a very heavy, thick funk. If you haven't noticed, this particular energy is going to lighten the load, but not until we absolutely feel the absolute intensity of the weight in which we've been carrying. So, of course, the full moon in Pisces is an indicator that we are moving into a brand new lunar cycle because, of course, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So this is an indicator, especially moving into Libra season, when the equinox energy resets the scales, we are going to be dealing with the full moon in Aries, which is the halfway point of this astrological calendar that, of course, we're moving through. So this full moon in Pisces is likely going to pack a very intense emotional punch. We're going to be hypersensitive, overstimulated. We're definitely going to have wackadoodle dreams, very, very intense waves of emotion crash over us, flashbacks from different incarnations. Definitely prepare for that one. Of course, that is going to set us up to close out August. And as you may remember, August is supposed to be very transformative, especially where our heart space is concerned. If you need to go back, listen to the August energy forecast to remind you what August was all about. Please go ahead and do that. And of course, we will be transitioning into September, which has a totally different vibration, totally different life lessons for us to learn. And of course, you can expect September's energy forecast and all 12 of those zodiac forecasts coming at you towards the end of the week. This is also the last week that Venus will be retrograde. She's preparing to go direct on the 3rd of September. So this is the last full week of her retrograde. We're definitely in the dark feminine energy. We're definitely feeling more empowered than we have in order to follow our heart, to do the hard things that just happen to be the right things in order to kind of reorganize and recalibrate the relationship dynamics that that, of course, have been weighing on us very heavily as we've been sitting in this dark pit trying to figure out who and what needs to stay and needs to go. And of course, as we kind of close out this retrograde, you can kind of expect in those final days for things to get super intense in order to really illuminate where it is that we've had enough, where it is that we're drawing a line in the sand and positioning us to take action and make moves to rearrange and reorganize our physical realms according to our heart space once she goes direct. So let's address a couple of homework items before we jump into the Ascension symptoms, if you don't mind. First of all, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being in the chat. I want to thank you for being here listening to the replay. If you're not live with us, I want to thank you for dropping emojis in the comment section. That's really helping the algorithm. I want to thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting, and really just all the love and support that you give my way. I do want to give you an update. It didn't last very long because I did go ahead and cancel that YouTube membership level. Again, kind of stemming from the conversation that started in last week's Ascension symptoms. In that forecast, YouTube has been messing with me. And I thought, again, reactivating the membership levels would be a good thing for everyone involved, but they have created absolute havoc with the very streamlined system that I've had with this whole channel and with these videos. They have really been messing with me. So I had enough. I was not willing to stick it out. I did cancel that membership level. So as of right now, if you want to jump over to my Patreon, that is where my membership content, my VIP content will be. Again, I am working on being able to offer that membership through my website, but it is a very, very slow process. I don't know when that's going to be ready. I'm hoping to have it ready for September so that all the zodiac forecasts can be kind of accessed through that particular membership. But at the same time, Mercury's retrograde. I almost threw my printer out on my lawn this morning due to the technological effery that's going on. So I can't quite align with the fact that I'm going to put a date on it, a finishing point on it, because technology has not been my friend and certainly is not proving to want to improve on that friendship here in this retrograde. So the last thing that I will say is, of course, with that full moon coming, you can expect a moon guide, another great reason to jump over to Patreon and get all of that additional content for a much more affordable price. And of course, the zodiac forecast will be available as well. So I just wanted to thank you for being here. I wanted to thank you for all the love and support, give you a little bit of an update on those membership sections. And now we're going to jump into the Ascension symptoms. So how's your anxiety doing? How's your irritability doing? How's your anger levels doing? I, for one, not doing so hot. I am just on edge. A lot of that anxiety, of course, comes from the Virgo energy itself, because Mercury rules over the Virgo energy, and there's a lot of nervousness, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anticipation in the air. Many of us just frustrated as F with current circumstances and situations. We feel like we are kind of on edge, like we're waiting for the ball to drop. Of course, having the lack of clarity that we were hoping to have at this particular point isn't really helping. I don't know anybody that has as much patience as we need to be having for these particular times of change right now. So that's definitely low. And of course, all of these energies are having a major impact on our breathing, being able to actually take a full breath and feel satisfied with that breath, and with our stomach. You might have bubble guts, you might have acid reflux, you might have nausea. The stomach, of course, has a whole bunch of nerves in it, and because we are overstimulated with electricity in Virgo season due to Mercury, we have a lot of electricity moving through our body, stimulating the central nervous system, creating a little bit of a nervous Nancy in all of us, and therefore we are just a buzzing. Now, a lot of this A lot of this frustration, a lot of this conflict is coming because we want so badly to move forward. We want so badly to just kind of, pick a path, make a choice, make a decision, take action, and move away from our current circumstances. But with all these planets in a retrograde, there is no chance in hell that we are moving forward in a brand new path. The only way that we are initiating something new or bringing something new to life is in the event of an ending and a closure that we are currently putting to death. Again, may I remind you, we are in the particular point of the calendar where this is a back to the future vibe. We are so reflective. We are looking back, we're taking stock, we're reevaluating a lot of things, especially with the old world that we created out of the old version of ourselves that was operating from the old wounded programming. And now, because we've had an awakening of sorts, another level up, another level of enlightenment, we're really emerging as our brand new selves. But this brand new self is confusing. We don't know if we're coming or going. And the new self is hard to anchor into the old environment, because the old environment and the attachments in which we created at that particular point in time is wanting us to be our old selves. And so it is very hard in this particular adjustment period for us to anchor in the new version of self, because we're still very much being triggered and activated to be the old version of self in the old world, in the old relationship dynamics in which the old self created. So this is creating a little bit of frustration because, of course, many of us just wanting to gain that insight, gain that clarity on what the next move is to move forward, when realistically speaking, we should pull our mind out of the futuristic planning path altogether and really focus on what we need to confront, what we need to organize, what we need to close the door on, what we need to clean up. With all of these retrograde planets, there is no initiating something new moving forward. There is only kind of creating a new structure of rearranging and reorganizing and reprocessing the old. So this is, again, in Virgo energy, a beautiful time to engage the physical body in activities that would require us to be organizing, to be putting things in its place, to be creating a new structure, a new routine or schedule that is going to help us work smarter instead of harder. That's going to eliminate us flying by the seat of our pants and having a little bit more intention with what it is that we are pouring time and energy into. Even the smallest things, such as doing the dishes, requires us to be here in the present moment, focused on, this dirty ass plate, this dirty ass fork. Instead, many people move into tasks and chores, such as the one that I just mentioned, and they're on autopilot. They're thinking about other things, and they're thinking about things that they have no control over in the here and now. And even more than that, they're projecting themselves so far into the future to try and, grasp that clarity that everyone's lacking right now, that you become detached and powerless. The only way you can truly stand in your power is to stay present in the moment. And, especially where we are looking to focus on the smaller details, the smaller habits, the smaller tasks and chores, the roles and responsibilities that make up our day to day, that eventually will kind of guide us into the greater, grander goals that we're setting for ourselves. It is imperative that we come back down to earth, that we stay very present in our physical bodies, that we stay in the present moment, in the here and now. And it's a very hard thing to do for most people, because the here and now, the present moment, is not a happy place. It is not pleasurable. Let me remind you, you are a light worker. You cannot be anchoring in your light here in this physical earth grid if your mind, if your intentions, if your visions, if your mental state is being projected into a place that is not physical reality. So this is a good lesson for all of us light workers to become present in the here and now. Sit in the uncomfortability of the here and now. Manipulate that energy. You are an alchemist. It's what you're here to do. You're able to create a happy place even in the unhappiest of environments. We have the magic and the power to do that. In Virgo season especially, is going to put us to the test to see how powerful we actually are. Now keep in mind, Virgo energy, Pisces energy, it is the healing axis. So there's a lot of healing going on, whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, doesn't matter, it's still happening. And the Pisces energy, which is spiritual and emotional in nature, is uncovering things from this incarnation, from previous incarnations, from soul contracts that we may not even have an awareness of, that we may not even be able to articulate. But because the Virgo energy focuses in on the physical body, the physical realm, and the mental health issues, we really do have to examine the physical realm, the physical world, the physical body in order to understand where the energy blockages are. And of course, once we can identify that, we can attempt to fix it, to solve it, to heal it in this Virgo energy. And of course, it has a domino effect by kind of allowing some of the shadow elements that we've repressed in our emotions and in our spirit to come to the surface for acknowledgement, for integration, and then prepare for release under that full moon in Pisces. So there is a certain level of nervousness. There's a certain level of irritation. We are looking at the roadblocks and we are surprised at the roadblocks preventing us from moving forward, when realistically you shouldn't be surprised at all. We're not meant to be moving forward right now. We're meant to be looking back and cleaning up the past. So this is creating a little bit of a divide in us. We're not really kind of content. Our heart and our head not on the same page. Of course, Mercury now retrograde, joining Venus, our heart space retrograde as well. We have about generally a week before she goes direct. So they're working very closely together. And what I love about that is that the last retrograde that we had at the beginning of the year, Mercury and Mars were working very closely together when Mars was still retrograde in that Gemini energy. And so Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, and how it is that we express ourselves, had a chance at the beginning of the year to work very closely with the masculine energy, that warrior masculine spirit. And now he has a chance to work very closely with the feminine energy, the dark feminine warrior spirit, which is a very interesting vibe. So you can expect over this next week to have some profound aha moments, especially where there's been heart activations throughout this Venus retrograde, offering us a pivot point to make a change, especially in our physical realms, into our physical realities, with the physical items, the physical people, the physical ideas that we need to rearrange and reorganize in order for us to be happier, for us to have a little bit more joy, more pleasure in our physical realms, for us to feel safe and secure and stable, and for us to feel like we're actually aligning with our higher self and we're on a mission, we're on a purpose to actually bring this new version of self into our physical realms. So this is going to be a back and forth type of energy. And again, with all these planets in a retrograde, there is an element where we are more introverted than normal. We're not as open to share our thoughts, our ideas with other people because, of course, we're just percolating on them now. There's a lot to process. And because of that, of course, you're going to have the pressure in your head. You're going to have the pressure in your sinuses. You will be having a moving headache. The ear popping, the ear, I'm going to say ringing, the downloads are definitely coming in this week. They may not be new downloads as much as they are activating and triggering the downloads that I spoke about a couple of weeks ago that we've been avoiding because we were uncertain about the path, about the projection and the trajectory of the path that we would want to take. And now here we are. You might not feel like you have a whole lot more clarity, but you do. Your higher self does anyways. Therefore, we are more apt to kind of open up those data packets that we just kind of pushed to the side, that we didn't want to upgrade our operating system a couple of weeks ago. Now we're finally in a place where we are more open to kind of upgrading that operating system, seeing what change, what transformation, what clarity we can gain once that operating system is up to par. And of course, those particular downloads being activated will be noticed in the ears, either being pressure in the ears, muffling, ringing, sirens, popping, clicking, the whole kit and caboodle. We can definitely expect that there's a lot of throat clearing still because of course, Mercury is retrograde. We're not really speaking out unless we have to. And even more than that, Mercury being retrograde in its place of power in Virgo energy, even if he wasn't retrograde, we are not speaking just to hear ourselves talk. We are only speaking if it makes logical, practical sense to do so in attempt to resolve any issues that we've already identified as creating a little bit of an imbalance, a little bit of an issue, a bit of a problem in us being able to progress. So when Mars actually moves into Libran energy, we're going to feel a different, I'm going to say, mood and attitude. We are definitely going to be more indecisive than normal, because that is a very strong, dominant Libra trait, is that we're on the fence about everything. We do have the ability to see both sides of the coin, different perspectives emerge in this Libran energy. But again, Mars not happy here because he's stunted in being able to take action. So what does that tell you? It tells you that we're not looking to make moves and to take action to progress ourselves. What we're looking to do is to balance our mental plane, to get in alignment within ourselves, between our heart and our head, between the relationship with self and the relationship outside of ourselves. Because again, reminder, the relationship that we have with ourselves sets the tone on all the relationships that we have with other people outside of us. So this is why we're going through a major adjustment period with the energy exchanges in our most personal relationships, because when we boss up, when we level up, when we have a new love for ourselves, the boundaries in our relationship dynamics have to change, because we're not about to allow people to treat us less than what it is that we are treating ourselves. And when we level up, we have to kind of adjust the boundaries. And when we adjust the boundaries, sometimes we are aware of the resistance, of the anger, of the fear that comes out of drawing the line in the sand with people that are used to taking advantage of our lack of boundaries. And so it's definitely going to be a totally different mood, a totally different vibe. There's going to be even more, I'm going to say, mental pressure, because again, Mars, he's got to kind of put down his sword, which is his weapon. He's got to put down the sword, and his weapon now becomes his intellect. So he has to either charm his way through, or he has to manipulate his way through, or he has to kind of reverse mind F his way through the path to get him closer to what it is that he actually desires to be living, to be obtaining, to be achieving. So we are going to see a little bit more chattiness, I would say, which is going to be an interesting, I'm going to say, opposition to the introvertedness that we're experiencing with Virgo season and Mercury being retrograde in Virgo energy. I think the chattiness is coming, first of all, in our inner realm. There's a lot more to talk about because we have different options, perspectives, choices, and decisions to actually contemplate. But it's also that Libran energy wants to collaborate. It has a tendency to look outside of oneself in order to confirm or validate what it is that we're currently experiencing, thinking, kind of mulling over in our inner realm. So this is going to be a time when we're going to see, if you are in situations, let's say relationship situations, legal situations, financial situations that have been kind of edgy, kind of testy, kind of requiring and a different energy exchange to be kind of set, different boundaries to be implemented there. We're going to see a lot of action and activity to rearrange and attempt to balance out the heart space. So where love is concerned, the bank account, where money is concerned, and legalities where justice is concerned. So this is going to be a very interesting dynamic, I would say, to watch play out more on the collective stage than in our inner realms. But of course, Mars is an inner planet, so he does have a great effect on us. I want you to pay attention to pain in the lower back, especially where the kidneys are concerned. I want you to pay attention to any congestion, any issues coming up in your lungs, or if you're having pain or discomfort over one side of the body over the other. Again, the whole kind of concept here is to take a good look at where balance needs to be restored. And we're going to be well aware of that dysfunction in our physical bodies in order for us to make peace with our current energetic circular system. What do I mean by that? Well, we have meridians, we have energy channels, and the blockages that, of course, we experience as pain and discomfort in our physical realms, that is the indicator on where the energy is actually blocked in your physical body. So, when we're paying attention to these ascension symptoms, and, some ascension symptoms tend to be a little bit more intense or dramatic than others, that is a good indicator on where you have to work a little bit harder to break up that energy. And, people always say to me like, oh, okay, well, I have, a pain in my shoulder. How do I how do I rectify that energy? Okay, so what are you carrying on your shoulders that doesn't belong to you? Where's the weight of the world so freaking heavy on your shoulders that it's creating a disconnect, a dis-ease in your energetic field. This is a good indicator, first of all, to identify what it is that you're carrying on your shoulders that doesn't belong to you, and then emotionally unpack where that actually stems from. Who gave you permission to pick up somebody else's baggage? Who gave you permission to walk around bearing this kind of weight? Why are you doing this? How come you haven't given permission to yourself to actually drop this particular matter and free yourself up to worry about things that have to do with you instead of someone else? So that is just an example on how it is that you can kind of map through the dysfunction of the physical body where the energy blockage is in your aura, and of course do the shadow work by picking apart and dissecting where the primary root cause of this particular energy got activated in your body in the first place. So when Uranus goes retrograde, like I mentioned, he's an outer planet, so it's not as intense, it's not as dramatic as what the inner planets would do. But again, if you are in a fear-based narrative, very, very much still locked into this physical realm, and identify who it is that you are with the physical realm achievements or the relationships or the money matters or the possessions or the success of this physical realm, then you may have a hard time when Uranus retrogrades, because the whole point is to show us where it is that we're overly attached and intertwined with the materialistic realm in which we've created. And of course, if you can sit and think about having, one of these physical items removed out of your life, and it absolutely creates an identity crisis, well, guess what, my friend? You're too attached to that particular physical element in which you've created. Now, one would say, well, geez, if you lost your house, I'm pretty sure you'd be upset. You would, but if you're acting as the observer, you would understand that that house is a blockage to the path, to the progress, to the mission, to the purpose that you're supposed to be on, that you can't be on because you're locked in financially and into an environment because of the home. Now, that doesn't mean that if you were to lose your home that you wouldn't have some kind of sense of sadness. However, when you are, the enlightened version of yourself, you would see that your higher self designed this as part of the plan to detach you from staying in this place and pushing you into a new environment that, of course, is going to upgrade your vibration and frequency, put you in a different environment to connect with different people, put you in a different environment to have new ideas on how it is that you are going to move forward. So it doesn't mean that you're going to have all of these items removed from your life, but you do have to work on the attachment style that you have to some of the physical realm, materialistic realm things in which you've created. If you're wondering a little bit more about attachments, I have a whole podcast on my Patreon for my VIPs over there. We talked about it, I'm going to say a couple of months ago, what detachment actually is, what identifying attachments actually are, how you can detach from something without having to cut it off or physically remove it from your environment. It is not about that. It's about the energy connection that you have with the idea or with the item itself. And we can all detach to a place of recognizing that this is not ours. This does not make us who it is that we are. And if you still are identifying your identity with some of the success or the accomplishments or the materialistic possessions in which you've created, then you're going to have a hard time where Uranus goes retrograde. But Uranus, of course, he brings a lot of electricity. He brings a lot of aha moments, a lot of epiphanies. And because we are retrograde and we're internalizing that energy, there's going to be a major shock to the system. There needs to be. Sometimes we won't change until we are forced to change, and sometimes we need shocking disruption, shocking events, shocking information to come to the forefront to change our perspective, to change our mood, to change our attitude, to create the domino effect in our thoughts, in our emotions, in order to detach from the things that are coming to the forefront here on what it is that we need to let go of in order for us to actually progress forward. Again, another topic and theme of going back to the future. In order to move forward, we have to clean up the past. So that full moon in Pisces, going to bring on a lot of cold feet. Okay, pay attention to the temperature in your extremities, especially where the feet are concerned, because Pisces rules over feet. There's a lot of fear in our lower extremities because we hold fear in our kneecaps. And a lot of that is because we are afraid of moving forward. Believe it or not, even though you're sitting around hoping and praying for change, we are essentially fearful when we are on the precipice, when we're on the bridge, when we're on the edge of having to make the changes that we've been contemplating or talking about. The full moon in Pisces, highly emotional, highly intuitive. We're going to be all over the place. Pay attention to your dreamscapes because that's going to be highly cryptic content on what it is that you have to be focused on. Pay attention to your heart space, to your chest area, to coughing as well. That is a cleansing type of action to purge, to get out of some of that emotional weight, those energy blockages. But where Saturn's involved, man, like just be prepared for a little bit of a harsh reality check. Keep in mind, Saturn's whole point being retrograde in this Pisces energy is to deconstruct the old forms of belief in order for us to actually adopt a new narrative, a new inner dialogue of what our belief system actually is. Because believe it or not, many of us trying to manifest a version of our realities that we want to bring to life that we're not a vibrational match for, because we're still under the construct of the old belief system. Now, whether that means that you don't believe that you deserve to be happy, or you don't believe that it's possible, or you don't believe that you're worthy of such greatness, that all comes down to a belief construct that Saturn is trying to illuminate for you and trying to deconstruct for you so that you can build something better in the place of the things that are not supporting the leap forward that your higher self wants you to make. So this is about realizing that we're in a realignment, a recalibration on so many different levels, and that the structures and foundations of our belief system is what will make or break us being able to achieve some of the visions and dreams that we're looking to conjure up. Keep in mind that we are likely going to feel heavy and weighted. I would say a lot of aches and pains around that full moon in Pisces, a lot of water weight being put on. If you need to cry, cry. There's going to be a lump in your throat. Mercury's retrograde, he rules over communication. We're choking on our words. We don't even know what to articulate. There's a lot of past energy and emotions coming up from places that we don't even know where they stemmed from. It is going to be an overwhelming full moon event. But on the flip side, once we kind of get out of this full moon energy, my goodness, how much lighter we're going to feel, how much more clear we're going to feel, how much more progress we're going to be able to make in our inner realms to get our heart and our head on the same page so that we can engage the physical body when we're given the opportunity to take action and make moves and progressing ourselves forward. We're going to have the emotional and mental structure already put into play in order to support the ongoing growing pains that we will experience as we break away from the old and as we try to enter and integrate and anchor in the new. So pay attention to those heart activations. I don't think they're going to be as sad, as somber as they've been, because we are moving into the dark feminine energy that is Venus rising. Considering the fact she's been in the bottom of this very dark pit for a very long time. She just started to climb her ass out of this pit on the 13th. She is gaining more and more momentum to the surface level of the earth in which she fell down into. And when she climbs her dirty ass out of that dark pit on the 3rd of September, you best believe she is going to have a new lease on life. So we have to expect that the intensity, I'm going to say the rage, because there is this certain warrior type of rage that we have to have in order to continue to push our ass to get out of this damn dark pit. And even more than that, to keep the fire lit, to keep those flames just a-moving so that we essentially can go ahead, take action, make moves to restructure, reorganize the physical realm that we haven't been happy with, contemplating about where it is that we're going to make these adjustments in our lives, especially with our relationships. We've been contemplating this as we've been sitting in this dark pit, and it's coming time where we're going to have to kind of shit or get off the pot, take action, make moves, and rearrange, reorganize our physical realms, relationships included, in order to support more happiness, more joy, more safety, security, and stability in our lives. I want you to pay attention to hiccups, to gas bubbles, to burps, to maybe coming out the other end too much on the other end as well. We are going to have that funky film be put back in our mouth. So our teeth may feel like they're wearing fuzzy little sweaters. It's a film in our mouth that doesn't taste very well, that it's hard to kind of get rid of. It's hard to cleanse our palate. It feels like morning breath all freaking day, which is not enjoyable at all. But again, we are biting our tongue. We have a lot going on in our inner realm that we're holding the energy in our bodies instead of getting it out, which means that we are altering our inner environment. And of course, with Mercury and Venus both retrograde for this week, we are going to see a lot of head progress, and then we're going to see a lot of heart progress. We may actually have little moments of time where we're on the same page between our heart and our head, but then those scales are going to become unbalanced again. This is the refinement process. This is the realignment, recalibration process that we've been going through, that we will continue to go through until Venus gets her ass out of that dark pit and she reaches the surface level and she's able to get that sunshine on her face, dust herself off, clean herself up, and then go to town, taking action by rearranging and reorganizing her physical realm. Relationships on the top of the list. So guys, I think that's all that I want to cover. I just need to kind of just hit the ball home here that anxiety, nervousness, confusion is the name of the game. We need this. Now, granted, a breakdown always comes before a breakthrough, and confusion always precedes clarity. So we're almost there. And you best believe when Venus gets out of that dark pit and the sun hits her face again and she reaches the surface level of the earth, it is going to be an absolute game changer. We're going to be a lot lighter at that particular point because the full moon in Pisces is going to clear us off of a lot of that karmic weight, a lot of that emotional baggage that we've been carrying around that really doesn't belong to us. And so we are going to be in a very, very different frame of mind, a different attitude, a different mood altogether. But of course, we have to get through this week before we get out of that dark pit. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this forecast was helpful. I hope that you continue to come back to it throughout the week if you're experiencing any kind of physical discomfort or mental confusion. Come back, listen to it, remind yourself that you are not alone on this crazy train, that you're not making these signs and symptoms up in your head, and that it is a very real process of letting go of some of the heavier weight of energies in order for us to launch ourselves into the next level of vibratory creation, which of course is going to get started towards the end of Virgo season, really seeing a climactic point of excitement prior to entering into that equinox energy. And of course, we will have a beautiful opportunity to regain the balance in our lives when we enter into Libra season. But of course, we have the whole Virgo season to get through before that with all of these retrograde planets. So I invite you to stop trying to make plans for the future and to clean up the mess, the debris from the past. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.